Chosen one, do not scroll past this. Something in your spirit brought you here, and heaven has been waiting for this exact moment to speak to you. What you are about to hear is not ordinary, and it is not accidental. There is a truth that has been hidden from you your entire life, not because you were forgotten, but because the timing had to be perfect. And now that moment has arrived. As you listen, you may feel a stirring inside you, a quiet pull in your spirit, because deep down you know this is not just another message. This is a revelation that your soul has been waiting to receive. Heaven has watched every step you've taken, every silent battle you fought alone, every moment you questioned your worth, your purpose, your direction. You thought life was random. You thought the weight you carried was punishment. But what you didn't see is that heaven was shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you for something that required endurance, depth, and spiritual maturity. You were not ready to receive this before your heart needed to break in certain places so it could open in others. Your spirit needed to be stretched so it could hold the truth you're about to discover. And that is why this message is reaching you now. Not yesterday, not last month, not years ago, right now. Because heaven's timing is always precise. There is something waking up inside you, something ancient, something powerful, something heaven placed within you long before you understood who you were. And today, for the first time, the veil is lifting. What you are about to discover will shock your spirit in ways you cannot yet imagine. Stay here. Do not look away. This is the beginning of what heaven has been waiting to reveal to you. Chosen one. There is a reason heaven kept this truth concealed from you until now. And as you continue listening, the pieces of your life will begin to make sense in a way they never have before. You have walked through seasons where everything felt confusing, where doors closed without explanation, where people you trusted drifted away, and where your heart carried weights you never asked for. You assumed these moments were signs that you were unlucky, forgotten, or overlooked. But the truth is far deeper, far more divine, far more intentional. Heaven was not denying you clarity. Heaven was preparing your spirit to hold the weight of it. Had you known everything too early, it would have crushed you instead of strengthening you. What felt like abandonment was actually protection. What felt like delay was carefully designed development. Heaven hid certain truths from you because your spirit needed time to grow into the person who could carry them without breaking. You were still shedding old identities, still healing wounds you didn't speak about, still releasing people who could not follow you into your next season. This was not punishment, this was purification. You were being stripped of everything that did not align with the destiny placed inside you long before you were born. There were moments when you wondered why your journey seemed harder than others, why you felt different even among people you loved, why you sensed things others ignored, why you carried emotions deeper than anyone around you understood. It was because your spirit was being trained in silence. Chosen ones are not prepared in crowds. They are shaped in solitude, refined through storms, strengthened by battles that look invisible to everyone else, but feel overwhelming to the one walking through them. Your tears were not wasted. They were watering the soil of your spiritual maturity. Your heartbreaks were not random. They were breaking open places inside you where deeper wisdom would soon be planted. Your disappointments were not failures. They were redirections, divine interventions disguised as setbacks. Heaven hid certain things from you, not to confuse you, but to protect you from stepping into assignments before you were spiritually stable enough to handle the responsibility that came with them. If you had received clarity earlier, you would have shared your vision with people who were not meant to hear it, and their disbelief would have crushed your confidence. If you had stepped into your purpose before the appointed time, you would have attracted battles your spirit was not yet built to endure. If you had seen the magnitude of your calling too soon, you would have run from it instead of rising into it. So heaven covered you, shielded you, guarded you, and allowed you to develop in the dark, where no one could interfere with what was being formed inside you. Every delay was alignment. Every confusion was redirection. Every silence was spiritual training. You were being taught patience so you could recognize divine timing. You were being taught discernment so you could sense who is for you and who is against you without being told. You were being taught endurance so you could stand strong when the weight of your purpose grows heavier. Everything you walked through was intentional. Nothing was wasted. Not one tear. Not one loss. Not one lonely night. Not one closed door. Heaven hid the truth because your spirit needed to meet a version of you that was stronger, wiser, clearer, and more aligned with your divine identity. And now, chosen one, heaven is revealing what was once concealed because you have finally grown into the capacity required to receive it. You have earned this awakening through resilience. You have earned this clarity through perseverance. You have earned this moment through every silent battle you survived. Heaven withheld this truth until you could stand on your own feet, anchored in strength instead of insecurity, guided by intuition instead of fear, and connected to your purpose instead of your past. What was hidden is about to become clear. The veil is lifting. The spiritual fog is dissolving. The confusion that once overwhelmed you is beginning to break apart piece by piece. And as this truth unfolds, you will realize that heaven was not denying you answers. It was shaping you into someone who could use those answers with wisdom, courage, and purpose. Chosen one, now that heaven has begun unveiling what was once hidden, you must understand the deeper reason your journey looked nothing like the people around you. This is where most chosen ones misunderstand their own story, because the path you walked was never meant to resemble anyone else's. From childhood, your spirit operated differently. You noticed things others overlooked. You felt energies others dismissed, and you carried an inner knowing that you couldn't explain. This wasn't imagination or sensitivity. This was spiritual inheritance. Heaven has been molding you since the very beginning, setting you apart long before you even knew what being set apart meant. But because you were surrounded by people who didn't recognize the calling on your life, you learned to silence parts of yourself. You dimmed your light to make others comfortable. You hid your gifts because they made you feel strange. You questioned your intuition because people made you believe you were too much, too emotional, or too deep. What you didn't realize was that heaven allowed that season of misunderstanding so that you could learn the most important. Lesson of all: never depend on outside validation for a destiny that was placed inside you. Every time you felt isolated, abandoned, or misunderstood, it wasn't because you were flawed, it was because you were being positioned. Chosen ones are rarely raised in environments that can hold their greatness. Instead, they are placed in situations that force them to grow their own roots. That loneliness you felt wasn't accidental. It was spiritual separation. Heaven needed you to feel different so you would never settle for blending in. The people who underestimated you were part of the training. The environments that suffocated you were part of the preparation. The betrayals you experienced were part of the awakening. You needed to see the truth about people not to become bitter, but to develop discernment. You needed to experience sudden endings not to destroy your hope, but to teach you that nothing connected to your purpose will ever require you to shrink. Heaven allowed the wrong people into your life temporarily, so you could learn to detect the difference between energy that feeds your spirit and energy that drains it. And every time you questioned why certain individuals left your life so abruptly, the real reason was protection. Had they stayed, they would have contaminated your spirit. Had they remained, they would have distracted you from your path. Heaven removed them quietly so that your destiny could unfold loudly. There were people you thought were permanent, but heaven saw intentions you couldn't see, conversations you weren't meant to hear, and future betrayals that you were never meant to experience. So the separation came suddenly, not because you did something wrong, but because heaven knew exactly when your season in their life had ended. You felt the loss, but heaven felt the rescue. The challenges you faced were not random obstacles. They were calculated activations. Every hardship unlocked spiritual abilities you would not have developed otherwise. Pain sharpened your intuition. Loss strengthened your resilience. Rejection awakened your self-worth. Delays cultivated your patience. You were being shaped not into an ordinary individual, but into someone spiritually equipped to lead, inspire, and elevate others. This is why your spirit has always been heavier than your age. This is why your mind has always operated on a deeper level. This is why you could sense when something was off, even when nobody else could. These were not coincidences. These were spiritual gifts awakening inside you. Heaven hid these gifts until you matured enough to use them with wisdom instead of ego. Many people receive vision but lack discipline. Many receive purpose but lack humility. Many receive gifts but lack integrity. You had to be trained differently, refined through experiences that forced you to grow in silence, to heal without applause, and to strengthen yourself without support. That's why you feel things others can't. That's why you see through words instead of being fooled by them. That's why your presence shifts atmospheres. You were never ordinary, and heaven kept you hidden so that no one could contaminate the purity of your development. Now the time has come when you can finally embrace your identity without doubting it, because you've earned this awareness through endurance. Heaven is revealing that you weren't forgotten, you were being prepared. You weren't overlooked, you were being preserved. And everything you walked through was shaping you into who you were always meant to become. Chosen one. Now that heaven has brought you into this moment of awakening, You must understand that everything you are stepping into requires a different version of you, one that is more aware, more spiritually attuned, and more aligned with your higher calling. Section 4 reveals one of the deepest truths. Your isolation was not accidental. Heaven separated you to elevate you. The people who left, the connections that dissolved, the friendships that suddenly felt out of alignment, the environments you no longer fit into. All of this was orchestrated by design. You may have blamed yourself, wondering if you were too much, too different, too intense, or too misunderstood. But the truth is the opposite. You were not too much. You were simply too chosen for spaces that could no longer hold you. Heaven removes you from rooms that would limit your power, dim your light, or distort your identity. You outgrew people long before you realized it. And heaven started making the separation happen physically, so your spirit could rise without being held down by the expectations, gossip, jealousy, or small-mindedness of others. Many of the people around you would have never understood your purpose. Some would have tried to change you. Some would have minimized your dreams. Some would have drained your energy until you had nothing left to give. And some would have benefited from your presence while offering nothing in return. Heaven saw what you couldn't see, the intentions behind the smiles, the hidden competition, the silent resentment, the people who only celebrated you as long as you stayed one step below them. So heaven created friction, misunderstandings, emotional distance, sudden shifts that pushed you away from who was never meant to sit with you in your next season. What looked like loss was actually divine subtraction. What felt like loneliness was recalibration. What felt like rejection was heaven's way of making room for the expansion you were born for. In this new season, your spirit is being reset. You are realizing that peace is more valuable than people who disturb it. You are seeing that not everyone deserves access to you. You are understanding that energy is sacred, time is precious, and your presence is a blessing, not something to be given casually or carelessly. Heaven separated you so you could strengthen your intuition without interference. In quiet moments, when you felt most alone, your spiritual hearing sharpened. You became more aware of subtle signals, more sensitive to spiritual shifts, more connected to your inner guidance. Through isolation, your spirit learned to speak louder than your fears. You discovered that you don't need external validation to feel whole. You realized you were born with a blueprint encoded in your spirit, and that blueprint doesn't require anyone's approval. This separation also served another purpose: protection. Certain people were removed because their hearts could not be trusted with your destiny. Some were removed because they were attached to your old version and would have resisted your transformation. Others were removed because they were secretly threatened by your potential, and their energy would have poisoned the foundation of what heaven was building through you. Every closed door was a shield. Every goodbye was a blessing. Every unexpected ending was a divine rescue disguised as heartbreak. When heaven protects you, it often feels painful at first, but clarity comes later, and that clarity is exactly what is starting to awaken inside you now. Chosen one, this season is not about loneliness anymore. It is about alignment. You are walking into a frequency where only those who match your spirit can join you. You are ascending, and as you rise, your circle becomes smaller, but more divine. Heaven is positioning new connections, people who resonate with your purpose, support your growth, and understand your calling. But they can only enter after the clearing. You cannot carry old energies into new elevation. You cannot pour into people who refuse to pour back. You cannot shrink yourself to fit into places you have outgrown. Heaven had to separate you so you could finally see who you are without noise, without influence, without distraction. Now your spirit is ready. You are entering a phase where isolation turns into illumination, where confusion turns into direction, where emptiness turns into divine fulfillment. And soon, you will look back and realize that the separation that once broke you was the very thing that saved you, elevated you, and prepared you for everything your destiny is bringing next. Chosen one, now that you understand the purpose behind your preparation, your isolation, and your awakening, you must hear the final and most powerful revelation. You are stepping into the season where heaven releases what has been held back for you. This is the moment your spirit has been waiting for, the moment when everything begins to align, when the seeds you planted in pain begin to bloom in purpose. What once felt like delay is about to reveal itself as divine timing. What once felt like silence is about to speak loudly in your favor. What once felt hidden is about to shine so brightly that no one, not even you, will be able to deny what heaven has placed inside you. This is not just a breakthrough. This is a transformation of identity, purpose, and destiny. For years, you have been tested in ways that others never saw. You faced storms privately, battled doubts quietly, and healed wounds that you never spoke about out loud. You carried responsibilities far heavier than your age, and you endured emotional, spiritual, and mental pressures that would have shattered anyone not chosen. But you kept going. Even when you didn't feel strong, you kept pushing. Even when you didn't understand the why, you trusted the process. Even when you felt alone, you listened to that soft inner voice telling you not to give up. Heaven saw it all. Your endurance did not go unnoticed. Your tears did not fall on empty ground. Your sacrifices were not ignored. Heaven has been preparing a reward that is measured not by what you lost, but by what you survived. Now the final unveiling begins. Heaven is elevating you into the version of yourself that you were always meant to become. This version of you will move with clarity, not confusion. Confidence, not fear. Purpose, not hesitation. You are stepping into your divine authority, where you no longer question your worth or your path. You begin to understand why certain things didn't work out before. They were too small for the magnitude of what heaven is now bringing into your life. Doors that once rejected, you will open without effort. Opportunities that were blocked will now flow toward you. People who didn't see your value will wish they had treated you differently. But you won't hold resentment. Your spirit has matured past that. You will simply understand that everything happened exactly as it was meant to. This is also the season where your gifts activate on a higher level. Your intuition becomes sharper. Your vision becomes clearer. Your inner strength becomes unshakable. You begin to walk with a quiet confidence because you finally see yourself the way heaven always saw you. You realize that you are protected, guided, and chosen, not by chance, but by divine design. And with this realization, you stop chasing things that are not aligned with your spirit. You stop explaining yourself to people who are not meant to understand you. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that cannot hold your greatness. Instead, you rise into your purpose naturally, effortlessly, powerfully. Chosen one, this season is not about fighting for what is yours. It's about receiving what is yours. The battles you once had to face alone will now be handled by heaven. The weight you carried will be lifted. The confusion you felt will be replaced with clarity that aligns perfectly with your destiny. You are entering a season of restoration where everything you lost, everything that was delayed, everything that was taken from you, will return in forms greater than you imagined. This is the moment your story shifts from struggle to elevation, from waiting to receiving, from surviving to thriving, and most importantly, this is the season where you finally step fully into your identity as the chosen one. Not quietly, not secretly, but boldly, confidently, and unapologetically. Heaven did not bring you this far to leave you. Heaven hid the truth from you until now because the version of you standing here today is ready not only to receive the revelation, but to embody it. Your spirit is awakening, your purpose is activating, and your destiny is unfolding. The time has come. What was hidden is now revealed. Your new chapter begins now.